The Galactic Council was meeting when the news arrived. Representatives from 300 species were gathered in the Great Chamber, discussing trade routes and border disputes. Normal, boring business, then every alarm in the building started screaming. Emergency, a technician shouted, running into the chamber. Spatial disturbance detected at the former Sol system coordinates. The chamber fell silent. Every representative turned to look at the main display screen. It showed the empty space where Earth used to be, except it wasn't empty anymore. The screen showed a massive quantum explosion, like reality itself was tearing open. And then, in the space where nothing had been for 50 years, a star appeared. Then planets. Then moons. Then thousands of satellites and stations. Earth had returned. Impossible, someone whispered. But it wasn't impossible. It was happening. The entire solar system had just reappeared exactly where it had vanished, and that wasn't the most shocking part. Ships, another technician shouted. I'm detecting hundreds of ships around Earth. They're powering up weapons. On the screen, they watched as human warships appeared on scanners. Not the small, peaceful vessels Earth used to have. These were monsters. Massive warships bristling with weapons that shouldn't exist. In the Varathi section of the chamber, the representative stood up. He looked confused and angry. That's our territory now, he declared. Earth was declared lost. We have legal salvage rights, but he was interrupted by another alarm. The Varathi mining fleet in the Sol system is under attack, a technician reported. They're being destroyed. The chamber erupted in chaos. Everyone started talking at once. Some species were celebrating. Others were demanding explanations. The Varathi were screaming about their rights. Nobody noticed the quiet woman standing in the back of the chamber. Her name was Hai, and she had been a low-level diplomat before Earth vanished. For 50 years, she had worked in refugee camps, helping the scattered humans survive. Now she walked calmly to the center of the chamber. She was carrying a small device. Attention, she said quietly. Nobody heard her. They were all too busy shouting. Hai pressed a button on her device. Every speaker in the chamber activated at once, amplifying her voice until it drowned out everything else. Attention, she roared. The chamber fell silent. 300 species turned to look at her. My name is Hai, and I am the new ambassador from Earth, she said. Her voice was calm now, but it carried a weight that made everyone listen. I have been authorized by Admiral Wan and Fleet Commander Nari to speak on behalf of humanity. Earth has no right to, the Varathi representative started. Be quiet, Hai said. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't a threat. But something in her tone made the massive insectoid stop talking. 50 years ago, Earth was attacked, Hai continued. We were trapped in a quantum isolation field. A theoretical weapon that should not exist. Someone built it. Someone used it. Someone tried to erase humanity from the galaxy. She looked around the chamber. For 50 years we have waited. We have prepared. And we have survived. Today Earth has returned. And we have questions that need answers. The Varathi fleet is still being destroyed, a technician called out. Yes, Hai said calmly. The Varathi invaded our territory. They are being removed. Any ship that leaves immediately will be allowed to go. Any ship that stays will be destroyed. This is not a negotiation. You can't just, someone started. Hai held up her hand. The device she was carrying projected a hologram into the center of the chamber. It showed the battle happening in real time. The council representatives watched in stunned silence as Earth's fleet tore through the Varathi ships. It wasn't even a fight. It was an execution. The human ships moved like ghosts, appearing and disappearing. Their weapons cut through shields and armor like it was nothing. What kind of technology is that? Someone breathed. The kind you develop when you have 50 years with nothing to do but prepare, Hai said. The kind you build when you know someone tried to kill you and will be waiting when you return. Within 30 minutes, the last Varathi ship in the Sol system was either destroyed or fleeing. Not a single human vessel was damaged. Hai turned to face the Varathi representative. Your empire owes Earth an explanation. Why were your ships in our space? Why were you mining our asteroids? And most importantly, did you build the weapon that trapped us? We have salvage rights, the Varathi insisted. Earth was declared lost. Earth was declared lost, Hai agreed. But Earth is not lost anymore. We are here, and we want our territory back. You have 24 hours to remove all Varathi presence from our space. Every ship, every station, every mining operation, all of it gone. And if we refuse, Hai smiled. It was not a kind smile. Then you'll discover what else we learned to build in 50 years. Back in the Sol system, Commander Day's ship was escorted to Earth. As they approached, he couldn't stop staring at the planet. It looked the same. The same blue oceans, the same green continents. But it also looked different. He could see massive structures that hadn't been there before. Orbital platforms, defense satellites, weapons that looked powerful enough to crack moons. "Welcome home, Commander," a voice said over the comm. It was a woman's voice, familiar but older. "Hana." Day could barely speak. "Is that you?" "It's me," his wife said. She sounded like she was crying. "I'm on the Retribution. We're sending a shuttle to bring you over. Are you—" Day had to pause. "Are you really alive?" "I'm really alive. So is Yuna. So is Jin. So are 15 billion other humans. We survived, Day. We all survived." The shuttle ride felt like it took forever. When Day finally stepped onto the Retribution, Hana was waiting for him. She was older, her hair gray now, but her eyes were the same. They didn't say anything. They just held each other and cried. Eventually, they pulled apart. Hana took his hand and led him to the bridge. "There's someone I want you to meet," she said. On the bridge, a woman was standing at the command station. She turned when they entered. She had Hana's eyes and Day's stubborn jaw. "Commander Day," the woman said formally. "I'm Fleet Commander Nari. I'm also your daughter." Day stared.
What?
"I was born 6 months after the barrier went up," Nari explained. "I'm 49 years old. I've spent my entire life preparing for this moment." Dai looked at Hana, who nodded. "We have a lot to tell you," she said gently. 50 years is a long time. Over the next few hours, they explained everything. The quantum research that had unlocked new technologies, the weapons development, the military buildup, the plan to make sure Earth would never be vulnerable again. "You turned the entire planet into a military power," Tai said slowly. "We turned the entire planet into a force that will never be trapped again," Nari corrected. "General Kai always said the best defense is making sure nobody dares to attack you in the first place." "And now?" Dai asked. "Now we find out who did this to us," Nari said. Her expression was cold. Dr. Jin traced the quantum signature of the isolation field. "We know it was Varathi technology, but the Varathi couldn't have built it alone. Someone helped them. Someone on the Galactic Council." Admiral Wan's voice came over the comm. "Fleet Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're demanding we cease all military actions and submit to a hearing." Nari looked at the screen. "Tell them we'll come to their hearing. But we're bringing our fleet. All of it." "That might be seen as a threat," Wan said. "Good," Nari replied. "Let them feel threatened. For 50 years, we were the ones who were afraid. Now it's their turn." Captain Huan, who had come aboard with Day, spoke up. "Fleet Commander, what about the humans who were stranded outside? There are 2 million of us scattered across the galaxy. Some are slaves. Some are prisoners. Some are just refugees." Nari turned to him. "We haven't forgotten. Operation Homecoming begins tomorrow. We're sending ships to every system with human populations. Anyone who wants to come home will be brought home. And anyone holding our people against their will." She paused. "They'll learn what happens when you enslave humans." A tactical officer approached. "Ma'am, we've completed analysis of the Varathi flagship we captured. We found communication records, and they were receiving orders from someone. The messages are encrypted, but our computers are working on breaking the code. We should have results within a few hours." Nari nodded. "Good. The moment we know who helped them, I want that information sent to Ambassador Hai at the Council. It's time for some truth." That night, Day stood with Hana on the observation deck of the Retribution. They watched Earth slowly rotating below them. "I missed this," Day said quietly. "I missed home. I missed you," Hana replied. "Every day for 50 years I wondered if you were alive. If I would ever see you again." "I'm here now," Day said. He put his arm around her. "And I'm not going anywhere." "Good," Hana said. "Because we're going to need you. We have experienced commanders, but they've never actually fought in a real war. You have. You've been fighting for 50 years. You want me to help train them? I want you to help lead them. Our daughter is brilliant, but she's never known anything except preparation. You know what it's like to fight when you're outnumbered and outgunned." Day thought about all the battles he had fought, all the times he had barely escaped with his life, all the friends he had lost. "All right," he said. "I'll help. But Hana, you need to know something. First, we find our people. the ones who were stranded outside. Then Commander Day was 78 years old and he was tired. Tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of watching his people suffer. But he refused to give up. It had been 50 years since Earth disappeared. 50 years of hell for the humans stranded outside the barrier. At first, the other species had been sympathetic. Some had even offered help. But that sympathy didn't last long. The Varathi Empire claimed all of Earth's former territories. Other species divided up human colonies and stations, and the 2 million humans scattered across the galaxy found themselves suddenly without protection, without rights, without a home. Some species were kind. They took in human refugees and treated them well. But others saw an opportunity. Humans became slaves on some worlds. They were cheap labor, smart enough to be useful but powerless enough to control. Day had spent decades trying to free his people, one group at a time. His ship, the Horizon Dawn, was old now, patched and repaired 1,000 times, but it still flew, and it still fought. "Commander, we've got a signal," his communications officer said. "It's coming from the Talos system. Human distress call." Day pulled himself from his chair. His joints ached, but he ignored the pain. "How many?" "The message says 200, sir. They're being held in a labor camp by the Krell." "Set course for Talos," Day ordered, "and send word to Captain Juan. We'll need backup for this one." The rescue went badly. The Krell were ready for them. They had expected someone to try to free the humans eventually. 3 of Day's crew died in the fighting, but they got the 200 people out. That night, Day sat alone in his quarters. On his desk was a picture of his wife, Dr. Hana. He wondered if she was still alive, somewhere inside that barrier. He wondered if he would ever see her again. "Commander?" A voice came from his door. It was Captain Juan, now an old man himself. "You should eat something. I'm not hungry. You never are." Juan came in and sat down. "We got another message today, from Ambassador Tay." Day looked up. Tay was in charge of what remained of Earth's government in exile. He moved from station to station, always one step ahead of species that wanted him dead. "What did he say?" "He's been talking to the scientists, the ones who studied the barrier." Juan paused. "They think it's going to collapse soon. Maybe in the next few months." Day felt his heart skip. "Earth is coming back? Maybe, if the scientists are right. If anyone is still alive in there." Juan looked at his old friend. "Day, what if they're all dead? What if the barrier was meant to kill them slowly? Then we're the only humans left," Day said quietly. "But I don't believe that. Hana is alive. I know she is. And when that barrier falls, Earth is going to need us. What can we do? We have 12 ships left. 12 ships out of hundreds. We're broken, Day. Then we survive until Earth returns," Day said with steel in his voice. "And we make sure we're there when it happens." Inside the barrier, the final preparations were complete. Nari stood on the bridge of the Retribution, Earth's new flagship. It was massive, 3 times the size of the old Horizon Dawn. And it was just one of 500 identical warships. "All ships report ready," her tactical officer reported. "The fleet is in position around Earth." "Civilian status?" Nari asked. "All civilian populations are secured in underground shelters. If something goes wrong when the barrier falls, they'll be protected." Nari nodded. They had planned for every possibility, but there was one thing they couldn't plan for: what they would find when they got out. Dr. Hana stood beside her on the bridge. The older woman had refused to sit this out. She wanted to be here, wanted to see the moment they returned to the galaxy. "How are you feeling?" Hana asked. "Ready," Nari said. Then she paused. "Dr. Hana, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Commander Day, your husband. Do you think he's still alive out there?" Hana was quiet for a moment. "I have to believe he is. Otherwise, what was the point of all this? We spent 50 years preparing for war, but we also spent it hoping that our people survived, hoping that we'll see them again. And if they didn't survive, then we make absolutely sure that whoever did this pays for every single human life they took." The countdown reached 1 hour. Across Earth, billions of people stopped what they were doing and watched their screens. This was the moment they had waited for their entire lives. Sung stood in his weapons lab making final checks. The Stellar Lance weapons were armed and ready. He had done his job. Now it was up to the fleet to use what he had built. Rena was with the soldiers doing last-minute checks on their cybernetic enhancements. Every single person on those ships was enhanced now. Faster reflexes, better healing, neural interfaces that let them control their stations with thought alone. Admiral Wan was in the command center deep beneath New Beijing. From here, he could coordinate the entire fleet. He had spent 50 years preparing for this. He would not fail. 30 minutes, someone announced. Jin was there too, monitoring the barrier. His predictions had been perfect. The barrier would collapse in exactly 30 minutes. And when it did, they would know who had created it. "Sir, I'm reading energy signatures building up outside the barrier," a technician reported. "Multiple ships. How many?" one asked. "At least 50. Maybe more," one smiled coldly. "They're waiting for us. They want to make sure we're dead." "Orders, sir." The moment the barrier falls, Fleet Commander Nari is authorized to engage any hostile forces. No warnings. No mercy. Nari received the order and felt a cold calm settle over her. This was it. Everything they had trained for. "All ships, battle stations," she ordered. "The moment we're out, we hit them hard and fast." 10 minutes, the countdown continued. Hana gripped the rail in front of her. Somewhere out there, Day might be waiting. Or he might be dead. She would know soon enough. 5 minutes. The entire fleet began to power up their weapons. The quantum fold drives hummed to life. Each ship was ready to jump the moment they entered normal space. 2 minutes. Nari took a deep breath. She thought about all the people who had worked toward this moment. General Kai, who had died believing Earth would return. The thousands of scientists who had unlocked impossible technologies. The millions of soldiers who had trained every day for a war they might never fight. 1 minute. 30 seconds. The barrier began to shimmer. Even from inside, they could see it starting to collapse. Reality itself was bending, twisting, returning to normal. 10 seconds. Nari's hands hovered over her command console. Beside her, Hana whispered something. A prayer, maybe. Or a promise. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The barrier vanished. For a moment, everything was chaos. Alarms screamed as sensors suddenly detected thousands of objects. Stars, planets, ships, stations. Everything that had been invisible for 50 years suddenly flooded their instruments. Multiple hostile contacts. The tactical officer shouted. Farathi ships, 73 of them. "They're in our space." Nari didn't hesitate. "All ships engage!" Show them what Earth has become. The fleet moved as one. 500 warships activated their quantum fold drives and jumped. The Varathi fleet never had a chance. One moment, they were sitting at the edge of the solar system, waiting to salvage whatever was left of dead Earth. The next moment, they were surrounded by ships that moved like nothing they had ever seen. Earth's warships appeared and disappeared, jumping around the battlefield. Their weapons tore through Varathi's shields like they were paper. The Stellar Lance weapons fired and Varathi ships simply evaporated. "Target their command ship," Nari ordered. "I want it disabled, not destroyed. We're going to have questions for them." Her ship jumped right next to the Varathi flagship. The retribution was smaller than the enemy vessel, but it didn't matter. A single shot from the Stellar Lance took out the flagship's engines. "Boarding teams, go," Nari commanded. Within minutes, enhanced human soldiers had stormed the Varathi ship. The crew surrendered immediately. They had never seen anything like this. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, every single Varathi ship was either destroyed or captured. Not a single human vessel had been damaged. "Admiral Wan, this is Fleet Commander Nari," she reported. "The solar system is secure. Earth has returned." Far away on a hidden station, Ambassador Tay received the message. He started to cry. Tears of joy, tears of relief. "They made it," he whispered. "Earth made it." He immediately sent out a message to every human in the galaxy. Every survivor, every refugee, every slave. "Earth has returned. Come home." And on the horizon dawn, Commander Day sat in his command chair and stared at his scanner in disbelief. "Sir, I'm detecting Earth," his officer said in a shaking voice. "It's really there. The whole solar system just appeared out of nowhere." Day stood up on shaking legs. "And the ships?" "What about the ships around it?" 500 warships, sir. All broadcasting Earth identification codes. And, sir, they're hailing us. Put them through." The screen flickered to life. A woman appeared, younger than Day, but with eyes that had seen too much. "This is Fleet Commander Nari of the Earth Defense Fleet. Identify yourself." "This is Commander Day, Captain of the Horizon Dawn," he said. His voice cracked. "We've been waiting 50 years for this." Nari's expression softened slightly. "Commander Day, Dr. Hana has told me about you. Stand by for coordinates. We're bringing you home." Dave felt tears running down his face. He didn't try to. Inside the barrier, Jin knew what had happened before anyone else. He had seen it coming in his equations, in the quantum readings that had been growing stranger for weeks. But he had been too slow, too careful. He had wanted to be sure before he raised the alarm. Now it was too late. "General Kai, we have a situation," Jin said into his communicator. He was still in his lab at the Tokyo Quantum Research Center, surrounded by screens showing impossible data. "I know we have a situation." Kai's voice came back sharp and angry. "The entire sky just turned into a light show and now nobody can reach anything outside the solar system." "What the hell is happening, Jin?" "It's a quantum isolation field," Jin explained, trying to keep his voice steady. "Someone hit us with a weapon. A theoretical weapon that wasn't supposed to exist. We're trapped inside a pocket dimension." There was silence on the other end. Then, "Explain that in words a soldier can understand." "We're in a bubble, sir." "A bubble cut off from normal space. Nothing can get in. Nothing can get out. We're completely isolated from the rest of the universe. Can we break through it?" Jin looked at his calculations. "Maybe, eventually, but it would take years. Maybe decades. This is beyond anything we've ever dealt with. How long do we have?" Kai asked. Jin pulled up his analysis. The numbers made him feel sick. "The barrier is unstable. It's slowly collapsing inward. Based on my calculations, it will completely fail in approximately 50 years. 50 years. Kai repeated quietly. "And then what?" "And then we're back in normal space. The barrier just disappears and everything returns to where it was." "Can we survive that long?" "We have everything we need inside the solar system," Jin said. "All our resources, all our people, all our technology. We can survive. The question is what happens when we get out." General Kai sat in the emergency command center, surrounded by Earth's military and political leaders. The room was chaos. Everyone was talking at once, demanding answers, making suggestions. Kai slammed his fist on the table. "Quiet," he roared. The room fell silent. Kai looked at each face. These were good people, smart people. But they were scared. He could see it in their eyes. "Here's what we know," Kai said. "We've been attacked. We're trapped for at least 50 years. And when this barrier falls, whoever did this to us will be waiting outside. We should focus on breaking through the barrier," someone suggested. "If we can get out early—" "No," Jin interrupted. He had been brought to the command center to explain the science. "Any attempt to break through from the inside could collapse the entire field unstably. It might kill everyone. Then what do we do?" another leader asked. Kai looked at them all. An idea was forming in his mind. A terrible, dangerous idea. "We use the time," he said slowly. 50 years. That's 2 generations. We use that time to prepare." "Prepare for what?" "For war," Kai said simply. "Someone attacked us. Someone trapped 15 billion humans in a prison and thought we would just die quietly. When we get out, we need to make sure they regret that decision." The room erupted in argument again. Some agreed. Others called it madness. But Kai noticed that the younger people in the room, the ones who would actually be alive in 50 years, were nodding. One of them stood up. Her name was Nari, and she was only 16 years old. But she was already attending military academy, already showing promise as a strategic thinker. "General Kai is right," Nari said. Her voice was clear and strong. "We can't just wait to be rescued. We have to save ourselves, and we have to make sure this never happens again." Kai nodded at her. He would remember that girl's name. The first year inside the barrier was the hardest. People were scared, angry, confused. There were riots in some cities. Some people gave up hope entirely. The suicide rate climbed. But slowly, Earth began to adapt. Jin and his team of scientists worked day and night. They studied the barrier from the inside, learning everything they could about how it worked. And in the process, they discovered something amazing. The barrier didn't just cut Earth off from normal space. It also changed the rules of physics inside. Things that should be impossible became possible. Technologies that would normally take centuries to develop could be created in years. "It's like the universe is different in here," Jin explained to Dr. Hana, who had been inside the barrier when it formed. "The quantum foam is more stable. Energy transfer is more efficient. We can do things we never dreamed of." Hana stared at the data. She had spent the past year in despair, thinking about her husband trapped outside, but now she felt something else: hope and determination. "Show me everything," she said. Together they began to work. Jin focused on the barrier itself, trying to predict exactly when it would fall. Hana focused on what they could build with this new physics. Within 5 years, they had working prototypes of quantum fold drives, ships that could jump instantly from one point to another without using wormholes. Within 10 years, they had weapons that could tear through any known shield technology. Within 15 years, every major city on Earth had been rebuilt as a fortress. General Kai didn't live to see the end of it. He died 20 years into the isolation, an old man who had spent his final years making sure humanity would be ready. But before he died, he passed command to the person he trusted most. Admiral Wan was 45 years old when he became the supreme commander of Earth's military forces. He had been a young captain when the barrier formed. Now he was a hardened leader who had spent his entire adult life preparing for one thing: the moment when Earth returned to the galaxy. General Kai's final orders, Wan told his officers, were simple. We don't just survive, we make sure everyone knows what happens when you attack Earth. The construction yards never stopped working. Every resource in the solar system was put to use. Asteroids were mined. Gas giants were harvested. The moon became one giant factory, and the ships began to take shape. They weren't like the old Earth ships. Those had been exploration vessels, diplomatic cruisers, cargo haulers. These new ships were something else entirely. Warships. Fast, deadly, unstoppable. Sung was in charge of weapons development. He was a genius, but he was also slightly crazy. He stood in his lab looking at his latest creation. We call it the Stellar Lance, he explained to Admiral Wan. It takes energy directly from the sun and focuses it into a beam. A ship equipped with this can destroy a target from millions of kilometers away. How many can we build? Wan asked. Give me enough resources and I can arm every ship in the fleet. Wan smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. You have unlimited resources. Build as many as you can. Rena worked in a different lab focusing on human enhancement. If Earth was going to fight a war against species that had been spacefaring for thousands of years, humans needed every advantage. Cybernetic implants that increase reaction time by 300%, she showed her team. Neural interfaces that let pilots think their commands instead of typing them. Genetic modifications that let soldiers survive in almost any environment. Is it safe? Someone asked. Safe enough, Rena said. And necessary. We're going to be outnumbered. We need to be better. The changes spread through society. Military service became mandatory for everyone. Every human learned to fight, learned to pilot, learned to survive. Schools taught weapons training alongside mathematics. Children grew up knowing they were preparing for war. But they also learned art, music, philosophy. Earth didn't want to become a society of mindless soldiers. They wanted to remain human. They just wanted to be humans that nobody would ever dare trap again. 30 years into the isolation, Hana stood in front of a crowd of scientists. She was 58 years old now, but she looked younger thanks to the medical advances they had made. We've done it, she announced. We've mapped the barrier completely. We know exactly when it will collapse. 50 years from the day it formed. Not a day more, not a day less, the crowd erupted in cheers. They had 20 years left. 20 years to finish their preparations, there's more, Hana continued. We've discovered something about the barrier. It keeps a record. A quantum signature. We can trace it back to whoever created it. The cheering stopped. Everyone stared at her. We know who did this to us? Someone asked. We will, Hana said. The moment the barrier falls, we'll be able to trace the signature. We'll know exactly who attacked us. Admiral Wan was in the crowd. He stood up. Then we make sure we're ready, he said. Not just to defend ourselves, but to make them pay. The final 20 years passed in a blur of activity. The fleet grew to 500 warships. The weapons were tested and retested. The soldiers were trained to perfection. And then there was Nari. The girl who had spoken up at that first meeting was now a woman of 46. She had risen through the military ranks faster than anyone in history. She was brilliant, ruthless, and absolutely dedicated to Earth's survival. Admiral Wan made her fleet commander. She would lead the ships when the barrier fell. On the last day, the day before the barrier was set to collapse, Hana stood with Nari on the command deck of Earth's flagship. Are you ready? Hana asked. Nari looked at the fleet around them. 500 ships, 50,000 crew members, weapons that could crack planets. I was born for this, Nari said. We all were. Everyone born inside this barrier has lived their entire lives waiting for this moment. What will you do? Hana asked. When we get out, Nari's expression was cold. Commander Day stood on the bridge of the Horizon Dawn, watching the stars drift past the viewing window. He had been in space for 3 months now, leading a diplomatic mission to the outer colonies. Earth felt far away, but it was home. It would always be home. Commander, incoming transmission from Earth, his communications officer called out. It's Ambassador Tay. He says it's urgent. Day turned from the window and walked to his command chair. Put him through. The screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Tay's tired face. The man looked like he hadn't slept in days. His usually neat hair was messy and his eyes were red. Day, we have a problem, Tay said without greeting. A big one. What happened? Day asked, feeling his stomach tighten. The Varathi Empire just made a formal demand at the Galactic Council. They want our asteroid belt, all of it. They claim it's wasted resources and that Earth doesn't have the technology to properly mine it. Tay rubbed his face with both hands. They're not asking, Day, they're demanding. Day felt anger rise in his chest. The Varathi were an old species, insectoid creatures that looked like giant mantises. They had been part of the galactic community for thousands of years. Earth had only been a member for 50 years. Humanity was still the new species, still learning the rules. What did you tell them? Day asked. I told them no, Tay said simply. Earth's territory is Earth's territory. We don't care how old they are or how powerful they think they are. The answer is no. Day smiled despite the tension. Good, what did the council say? They're divided. Some species support us. Others think we should just give the Varathi what they want to avoid conflict. Tay leaned closer to the camera. But here's the thing, Day. The Varathi didn't just make a demand. They made a threat. They said if we don't surrender the asteroid belt within 1 week, there will be consequences. Consequences, Day repeated. They're threatening war? I don't know what they're threatening, Tay admitted. But I need you to come home. Bring the Horizon Dawn back to Earth. We might need every ship we have. Understood. We'll begin the jump sequence immediately. Day paused. Ambassador, be careful. Don't trust the council too much, Tay smiled sadly. I learned that lesson already, old friend. Come home safe. The transmission ended. Day immediately started giving orders. The Horizon Dawn was one of Earth's newest ships, equipped with the best human technology. It could make the jump back to Earth in 2 days if they pushed the engines hard. But they never made it. Down on Earth, Dr. Hana worked in her laboratory deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. She was studying quantum mechanics, trying to understand how some alien species could create stable wormholes. Her assistant, a young woman named Yuna, was helping her run calculations. Dr. Hana, Yuna said suddenly, staring at her screen. I'm detecting something strange. Strange how? Hana walked over to look at Yuna's monitor. There's a massive energy buildup around the solar system. It's like reality itself is bending. Yuna's fingers flew across her keyboard. I've never seen readings like this. Hana's blood went cold. She had seen readings like this before, but only in theoretical papers. Only in warnings about weapons that shouldn't exist. Get me General Kai, Hana said urgently. Right now. But it was already too late. In space, Captain Juan was leading a patrol near Neptune when his sensors went crazy. Every alarm on his ship started screaming at once. What the hell is that? His co-pilot shouted. Juan watched in horror as a wall of shimmering energy appeared in front of them. It was like watching space itself tear open. The wall was expanding, growing, moving toward them at impossible speed. Full reverse. Get us away from that thing, Juan ordered. His ship's engines roared to life, pushing them backward. But the wall kept coming. It was expanding from somewhere near the sun, growing outward in all directions. Juan realized with sick certainty that it was going to swallow the entire solar system. Punch it. Maximum speed, he screamed. His ship shot backward, racing against the expanding wall. Juan watched his distance counter drop. 1 million kilometers. 500,000. 200,000, they barely made it. His ship crossed the edge of the expanding sphere just seconds before it would have caught them. But as Juan looked back, he saw dozens of other human ships that weren't so lucky. They were swallowed by the shimmering wall and disappeared from his sensors. Sir, his co-pilot said in a shaking voice. Earth is gone. Juan stared at his scanner. Where Earth should have been. Where the sun and all the planets should have been, there was nothing, just empty space. The coordinates were right, but the solar system had vanished. Try to contact Earth, Juan ordered, knowing it was useless. No signal, sir. No signal from Earth. No signal from any of the stations. No signal from the moon colonies. It's like they just disappeared. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council's monitoring stations detected the anomaly. Within hours, ships from a dozen species arrived at the coordinates where Earth's sun used to be. They found nothing but empty space. Commander Day's Horizon Dawn arrived 2 days later. He had seen the emergency broadcasts. He had heard the impossible reports, but he refused to believe them until he saw it with his own eyes. Now he stood on his bridge, staring at empty space where his home should be. "Run another scan," he ordered. His voice sounded dead even to himself. "Commander, we've run 17 scans," his science officer said gently. "There's nothing there. Earth is gone." Dr. Hannah stood in the crowd at the emergency Galactic Council meeting. They had pulled her from her lab because she was one of Earth's leading scientists. She was also one of the few humans who had been off-planet when it happened. The council chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species. They were all talking at once, arguing about what had happened. Some called it a natural disaster. Others whispered about weapons. A few said it was humanity's own fault for refusing the Varathi demands. "Order!" the council speaker called out. "We must have order!" The chamber slowly quieted. The speaker, a tall blue alien with 4 arms, looked grave. "The science division has completed their analysis," the speaker announced. "The phenomenon that destroyed Earth was a quantum isolation field. It is a theoretical weapon, one that should not exist. It creates a pocket dimension and traps everything inside it. Nothing can escape. Nothing can enter." "Is Earth destroyed?" someone called out. "We don't know," the speaker admitted. "If they're inside the field, they may still be alive. But we have no way to contact them, no way to reach them. And according to our scientists, there is no way to break through such a field from the outside." "Then they're as good as dead," another voice said. Hannah felt tears on her face, but she didn't move to wipe them away. Somewhere in that empty space, her husband was trapped. Her son was trapped. 15 billion humans were trapped in a prison of bent reality. The Varathi representative stood up. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with gleaming black chitin. "The Varathi Empire claims salvage rights to all former Earth territories," he announced. "Since humanity is now lost to the void, their resources belong to whoever can claim them." Hannah started to shout, to protest, but someone grabbed her arm. It was Ambassador Tay. He had made it out too, barely. He shook his head at her. "Not now," he whispered. "We can't win this fight. Not today." That night, Hannah sat with Ty and the other surviving humans. There were 2 million of them scattered across the galaxy. 2 million out of 15 billion. "We're all that's left," someone said quietly. But Tay shook his head. "No, Earth is still out there somewhere. And one day that barrier will fall. I don't know when. I don't know how. But it will fall." He looked at each of them. "And when it does, we need to be ready. We need to survive. We need to remember. Because Earth is coming back." Hannah nodded slowly. She didn't know if she believed him. But she knew she would spend every day working toward that moment. The moment when Earth returned, if it returned. The Indomitable's bridge shook violently as Velcran weapons hammered against its failing shields. Warning alarms screamed. Smoke filled the air. But Captain Doyen Lee kept his eyes locked on the target ahead. The massive form of the Eternal Dominion, Warlord Thex's flagship, shield integrity at 15%, Lieutenant Minho Bay reported through gritted teeth. "We won't survive another hit." "We don't need to survive," Doyun replied calmly. "We just need to get close enough." Around the Indomitable, the last ships of the strike force pushed forward. The Resilience, its weapons burned out, used its hull as a battering ram against a Velcran escort ship clearing the path. Captain Nari Song's last transmission was simple: for Earth. Yunji Han died at her station, never leaving her post even as the Resilience broke apart around her. She was 23 years old. Commander Hunwoo Kang's boarding team breached the hull of one of the Velcran command ships. The aliens inside fought with desperate ferocity. But the human special forces were fueled by something stronger than fear. They were fueled by rage. "Plant the charges on the reactor core," Hyunwoo ordered, gunning down 2 Velcran soldiers. "We have maybe 3 minutes before they realize what we're doing." His team moved through the alien ship like ghosts, leaving destruction in their wake. They reached the reactor room with 1 minute to spare. Hyunwoo set the timer personally. 30 seconds. "Mission accomplished," he transmitted to Admiral Kim. "See you on the other side." The explosion tore the Velcran command ship in half. Hyunwoo and his entire team died in the blast. but they took 400 enemy crew members with them, including one of Thex's senior commanders. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Warlord Thex watched the destruction of his command ship with disbelief. These humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to surrender. Instead, they were throwing themselves at him with suicidal determination. "All weapons, destroy that ship," Thex roared, pointing at the approaching Indomitable. "I want it atomized." Every weapon on the Eternal Dominion turned toward Doyen's vessel. Energy beams lanced through space. The Indomitable's shields collapsed. Hull plating vaporized. Entire sections of the ship were torn away, but Doyen kept pushing forward. "Engineering reports main engines failing," Minho said, his voice tight with pain. Blood ran down his face from a head wound. "We have maybe 10 seconds of thrust left." "Then we make them count," Doyen said. Ramming speed. The Indomitable's engines roared one final time, driving the dying ship directly at the Eternal Dominion. Velcran point defense weapons tore into it, but nothing could stop its momentum now. "All hands, brace for impact," Doyen commanded. Then quietly, "It's been an honor, crew." The Indomitable struck the Eternal Dominion's bridge section at thousands of kilometers per hour. The impact was devastating. Both ships' forward sections crumpled like paper. The collision tore a massive hole in the Velcran flagship's hull, exposing dozens of decks to the vacuum of space. But Doyen wasn't finished. As the ships ground together, he triggered the Indomitable's self-destruct sequence. The human ship's reactor went critical, and a miniature sun bloomed in the heart of the Velcran flagship. When the explosion faded, the Eternal Dominion was still intact, but crippled. Its bridge was gone. Its command crew was dead, and Warlord Thex, the conqueror of 47 worlds, drifted in space, his body torn apart by the blast. The death of their warlord sent shockwaves through the Velcran fleet. Without their supreme commander, coordination began to break down immediately. Individual ship captains started making their own decisions, and those decisions often conflicted. Admiral Kim saw the chaos spreading through the enemy fleet and knew this was the moment. "All ships, full offensive. Press every advantage. Give them no time to reorganize." The human fleet surged forward with renewed ferocity. Every ship that could still fire weapons did so. Every captain that could maneuver their vessel pushed deeper into enemy territory. Pilot Junho Shin, his fighter riddled with holes and his co-pilot dead, made one final attack run. His engines were failing, his weapons were empty, but he had one trick left. He aimed his dying fighter directly at a Velcran cruiser's bridge and accelerated. "Tell my mother I love her," he transmitted, then shut off his comm system. The fighter punched through the cruiser's bridge viewport. The resulting decompression killed the entire command crew. Junho died instantly, but he took 50 enemy officers with him. Across the battlefield, similar acts of heroism played out. Ships with no weapons rammed enemy vessels. Pilots with no ammunition used their fighters as missiles. Even damaged ships that could barely move positioned themselves to block enemy fire aimed at their fellow humans. Dr. Minji Park tracked the third Velcran command ship from her observatory. It was trying to retreat, pulling back from the battle to escape. She calculated its trajectory and sent the data to every human ship in range. "Don't let it escape," she transmitted. "That's their last command vessel." 20 human ships broke formation to chase it down. They were damaged, low on ammunition, running on failing systems, but they caught the Velcran ship before it could jump to faster-than-light speed. The combined fire of 20 desperate ships overwhelmed the command vessel's defenses. It exploded in a brilliant flash, taking the last of the Velcran senior leadership with it. Without any command ships, without any warlords, without any coordination, the Velcran fleet began to disintegrate. Some captains tried to fight on. Others attempted to surrender. Most simply fled, their ships breaking formation and scattering in every direction. "All ships pursue and destroy," Admiral Kim ordered coldly. "They came to exterminate us. We return the favor." The human fleet, bloodied but unbroken, hunted down the fleeing Velcrans throughout the solar system. Near Saturn's rings, around Jupiter's moons, through the asteroid belt. Everywhere the aliens ran, human ships followed. The battle lasted another 6 hours. When it finally ended, the space around Earth was thick with debris. Nearly 1,500 ships, human and Velcran alike, floated dead in the void. But of the 3,000 Velcran vessels that had entered the solar system, fewer than 400 escaped. Humanity had won. On Earth, billions of people watched their screens in stunned silence. Then the celebrations began. Cities erupted in cheers. Strangers embraced in the streets. Children who had hidden in bunkers emerged to see the sun still shining. Admiral Tai-Yang Kim stood in his command center, watching the casualty report scroll across his screen. So many names, so many brave people who would never go home. Captain Doyen Lee, Commander Hyun-Woo Kang, Pilot Jun-Ho Shin, Captain Nari-Song, Yoon Ji-han. Thousands more. Sir, an officer approached quietly. We've captured a Velcron admiral alive. He's requesting to speak with you. Kim nodded and walked to the detention area. The Velcron admiral was massive, easily 3 meters tall, but he cowered in his cell like a frightened child. I don't understand, the alien whispered in broken human language. We conquered 47 worlds. 47? None resisted like you did. Why? Why did you fight so hard? Kim looked at the alien with cold eyes. Because you made a mistake. You thought this was just another conquest. For us, it was survival. You can surrender and live to fight another day. We had nowhere to run. This is our home, and humans will die before we let anyone take our home from us. The Velcron admiral shuddered and said nothing more. Engineer Sora Nam worked with her team to access the captured Velcron ship's navigation systems. What they found was both fascinating and terrifying. Maps showing the location of the Velcron homeworld and dozens of conquered systems. We have their routes, Sora reported to Admiral Kim. We know where they came from. We know where they'll go if they try to regroup. Kim studied the data carefully. The Velcron Empire was vast, stretching across hundreds of light years. This fleet had been just one of many. If Earth remained passive, more would come. Prepare a message, Kim ordered. We're sending it with one of the Velcron escape ships. The message was simple. It contained footage of the battle, showing Velcron ships burning and broken. It showed human vessels ramming enemy cruisers. It showed the destruction of the Eternal Dominion. And at the end, a simple text appeared. Earth is not for conquest. We do not surrender. We do not flee. Send more fleets if you wish. We will destroy them all. This is our home and we will defend it to our last breath. Tell your empire. Tell every species you have conquered. Tell the galaxy. Humanity is not prey. The Velcron ship was released, carrying the message back to the Dominion's territories. Kim knew what would happen next. Either the Velcrons would seek revenge or they would leave Earth alone. Either way, humanity needed to be ready. Begin construction of new warships, Kim ordered. Military-grade vessels, not converted civilian ships. I want weapons development accelerated. I want defensive platforms around Earth, Mars, and all our colonies. We won this battle, but the war is just beginning. Dr. Minji Park approached him with new data. Admiral, I've been monitoring long-range communications. Other species are talking about what happened here. Word is spreading. Let it spread, Kim replied. Let the galaxy know that Earth stands strong. In the days that followed, memorials were held for the fallen. Names were carved into monuments. Stories were told and retold. Captain Doyen Lee's sacrifice. Commander Hyun-Woo Kang's bravery.